Hello, I'm Dr. Arti Kandolkar. I'm a consultant psychologist and a counselor. I'm also president and the founder of the Institute Beautiful Mind and Soul. Today, we are going to talk on various schools of thoughts in psychology. Now, when we say various schools of thoughts, means it's a different perspectives in psychology. Okay, when we say school, it means a group of people of similar interests coming together. Okay, that is what we call a school here in psychology. There are seven major schools of thoughts in psychology that has been identified. Okay, namely structuralism, functionalism, psychoanalysis, behaviorism, gestalt, cognitive, and humanistic. When we say schools of thoughts, it is like a different expert, okay, trying to understand psychology from different perspectives or different ways. They don't have one method to understand it. They may be from different places. Okay, their interest to understand psychology may be different, or the way may be different. Okay, so we call them different schools in psychology. Let's try to understand the schools of thoughts through seven different perspectives. Okay, so we'll try to understand this through an analogy of an elephant and seven blindfolded people. Okay, so they are trying to understand the concept of elephant in their own ways. Since psychology is compared to an elephant, which is huge, we need to understand different schools of thoughts which are trying to understand each part, okay, or some part of the subject. All thoughts are needed here, or all perspectives are important to understand the basic essence of psychology. Each person may have access to different parts of the elephant. Okay, like for example, those who got access to the tummy part of the elephant may say it's a ball or it's a barrel because it's huge. The some people who got the trunk of the elephant may say it's a snake or spear. Some part who got access to the ears of the elephant may say it's a fang. Okay. And some part who got access to the legs of the elephant may say it's a tree. The concept structuralism is given by Edward Kirchner. Okay, although this school of structuralism did not last, but it definitely have influenced the field of experimental psychology. Later on, based on this school, William Wundt in the year 1879 has started first formal what you can say, experimental laboratory in Leipzig, Germany. The second major school of thought is functionalism. As the term goes, is trying to understand the functions of the mind and behavior. Okay. So they are trying to examine the mental processes and how this mental processes relates to human behavior. This school, uh, the term for this school is given by William James, and this school came into existence in the late 19th century in United States. One criticism about functionalism is that it's trying to understand the function, how it works, without trying to understand its constituent structure. The third school of thought in psychology is psychoanalysis, which is given by Sigmund Freud. Sigmund Freud tried to study the human mind or the functioning of the mind through various methods, like, for example, psychosexual stages or levels of consciousness or ego defense mechanisms. Along with Freud, there were some of his students were neo-Freudians who tried to edit this theory or give their own interpretation. Freud also said all the problems that we face today as an adult or adolescent are rooted back in our childhood or in our unconscious part. Okay, the childhood is mainly before the age of 5. And since this unconscious part or the years prior to the 5 years of age, which is like infantile amnesia, is difficult to access or it is inaccessible. So, since it is inaccessible, it is difficult to solve problems. But he had come up with some methods like free association and dream analysis, through which he tried to understand our unconscious part. The fourth school is behaviorism, and the main founders or contributors of this theory are Watson, Ivan Pavlov, E.L. Thorndike, and Skinner. These are the people who believe there is no need to study the internal processes of the mind like thoughts, feelings, emotions, values, or you can say our insight. They have no value or place in behaviorism, and they try to reduce every behavior, okay, or every overt behavior to stimulus and response. Behaviorists also spoke about the concept of reward and punishment in understanding behavior. Okay, like to increase or decrease behavior, you can use this method. And to conclude about behaviorists, we can say that they try to focus in understanding the overt part of the behavior rather than the inner functioning of the mind. The fifth school of thought is Gestalt psychology, which is based on the idea that we experience things in our surrounding and we experience things as whole rather than looking at its parts. Means we tend to look at the entire thing since it is based on the main tagline that whole is greater than some of its parts. Mind will always try to interpret data or understanding things by trying to see it as a whole, even though it is not complete. Okay, so it is trying to fill in the gap of the information which is missing. For example, there is series of lines which may look like a square, but the lines are incomplete. Okay, but mind will fill in this gap and will try to make you visualize it as a square or a rectangle. So same thing when it try to the application of this theory, the theorists will try to apply these rules, principles, and laws to understand things and solve their real life problems of relationship or job or education. The sixth major school in psychology is cognitivism or cognitive psychology. Okay. So now the focus here in cognitive psychology to understand how the information is processed, how information is modified, stored, retrieved, or organized. Okay. Prior to this perspective, the behaviorism was more dominant perspective in psychology, but later theorists believe that we need to understand some internal processes rather than with internal processes which govern the behavior rather than the behavior itself. The theorists here try to study all these internal processes like perception, memory, thinking, language. Okay, they try to study each of these processes scientifically, and that was like cognitive revolution in this field. Cognitive psychology is one of the youngest field in psychology, and yet it has become one of the most popular one. The seventh and the last major school of thought is humanism or humanistic psychology, which is like major philosophers here or the thinkers here are John Paul Sartre, Soren Kierkegaard, Martin Buber. The two more theorists here, which are recent one, is Abraham Maslow and Carl Rogers, who also contributed to this theory. Abraham Maslow came up with the hierarchy of needs, and according to this hierarchy, or one part of this is self-actualization. So, in this theory, they say that all the problems or human conditions which who suffer are because the block self-actualization. This humanistic approach is more of a philosophical in nature and less scientific. Okay, its roots lies in the existential psychology. So this approach though has its limitation, but it is one way says that all human beings are capable, are able to solve their own problem and reach higher potential or growth. So we have covered seven different schools of thoughts. Although these are not the only seven, there are many different school of thoughts, but we try to cover the major ones. All these schools are very important because they have contributed in their own way. Although their methods, ways, or perspectives are different to study mind and behavior, but their purpose was one, okay, to study mind and behavior.